Alright, so in this video, we're going to put together the things that we've just talked about. So in the first one this week, we talked about demand, and in the second one, we talked about supply, and now we're sort of going to put them together and get the supply and demand framework that economics uses and economists use all the time to basically illustrate almost everything. And when I'm saying almost only because I'm trying to be guarded, I think you can use it for everything. Okay, so we're going to develop this model. So in the first video, we had the demand curve with the curve sloping down and to the right. And in the second video, we had the supply curve with the curve sloping up and to the right. Okay, and that was our framework. And what I want to do is sort of put them together. So I'm going to bring both of these things in line with each other, right? And we're going to get the all-powerful supply and demand framework. Okay. Now, notice that the supply curve and the demand curve, they cross exactly once, right? At this point here, which we call equilibrium. And I'm going to denote it as P star and Q star. Okay? Different textbooks use different notes. Some people use P zeros and Q zeros, others use P bar or Q bar. I just use star. That's what I was taught in undergrad, and I've just always used stars. So I'm going to use stars to denote the initial equilibrium. Okay? So this point right here, right there, is known as equilibrium. And notice what's really great about it is that there's only one quantity that I've listed down here. So at equilibrium, what must be the case about quantity demanded and quantity supply? Is one of them bigger than the other, or are they exactly equal? Right? So at equilibrium, they must be exactly equal to one another, right? Which is great if you think about it, because what it's saying is that all the consumers that want to buy something are finding sellers to buy them from. And it's not like anyone here who's willing to buy something can't find a seller. And it's not like any sellers here who are willing to sell aren't able to find a buyer, right? Everything is great. Equilibrium's an awesome, awesome place, okay? And at P star, right, this is what gets brought about, right? Once we find out what the right price is and we charge people the right price, there will be exactly as many things produced as people want to buy. There'll be no waste, right? There's not going to be any cars sitting there unsold. There's not going to be any food that's going to waste, right? Nothing. It's all perfect, okay? It's great. Equilibrium, two thumbs this way, two thumbs up, right? Fully supported, okay? If the price were too high, what would happen? Okay. If the price is too high, so let's call it P plus, just to use the plus sign here. If it were set too high, what would happen? Well, we come over and we run into the demand curve right there. So we can come straight down. Right, we've got QD, I'll call it QD1. I can come straight down here, right? I run into the supply curve right there, come straight down. We'll call this QS1, right? So if the price is too high, what's the relationship between quantity demanded and quantity supply, right? So here, it must be the case that quantity supply is bigger than quantity demanded, right? And why is that the case? Well, at a high price, right, people that are providing things are willing to provide a whole lot of them, right? And at a low price or a high price, people that buy things are only willing to buy a few of them. Okay, so let's think about this in the context of the grocery store. Or, yeah, let's do the grocery store. So if you see prices are too high at the grocery store, are we going to see food sitting on the shelf for too long, the right amount of time, or too short? Okay, food's going to sit on the shelf way too long because the price is too high and people aren't buying it, right? But at the same time, we're going to be making, let's say, lots and lots of milk, right? So the dairy farmers are going to be increasing production as much as they possibly can. And as a result, right, there's going to be lots of milk lying around, right? But at high prices, people don't want to buy it. So there's going to be lots of milk not getting sold, right? And so this distance here, QS1 minus QD1, right, is the amount of the excess. So we can call this sort of an excess supply. Now at the same time, what if we set the price too low? So let's set the price a little bit too low. I'll call it P minus. I'll use red to make it easy to see the difference here. Okay, so at P minus, what do I got? Well, I've run into the supply curve, so let's come straight down from there. Got quantity supplied, we'll call it 2. And I continue over. Oh, I've run into the demand curve, so let's come straight down from there. QD2. Okay, so we're looking at the red here, right? If the price is too low, so let's put some dots here so we can have some organization. Price is too low. What's the relationship between quantity demand and quantity supply, right? Well, here quantity demand is very big and we call it an excess demand, right? So let's say the grocery store is selling, they're selling beer for 50 cents a case, right? What are you guys going to do? Are you going to buy beer very quickly or are you going to buy beer very slowly, right? And it's perfectly good. Everything about the beer, there's nothing, no reason to be suspicious, right? The beer is perfectly fine. Okay, what are you going to do? You're going to want to buy a lot of it, right? So, and at 50 cents a case, how much beer do you think the breweries are going to be willing to produce? Well, probably not that much, right? And so the producers are going to produce less, right? So from here to here, right? This is decreasing production, and you guys are going to want to buy more, right? Okay, so there's a difference, right? The producers are producing less, and you guys want to buy more, so we call that an excess demand, okay? And so what we've got, right, is a situation in both of these cases. In the case of the excess supply and in the case of the excess demand, we've got a situation here. We've got to figure out how to solve this. So how do I solve cases of an excess supply, right? So if I have an excess supply, what do I want to do? Well, probably want to lower the price, which is going to decrease the amount that the producers are producing, right? But it's also going to increase the amount that the consumers are buying, and we'll get back to this equilibrium point, right? And if the price was too low, what would I do? Well, I could raise the price, right? So if I raise the price, that will induce the producers to make more, and it will induce the buyers to buy less. And again, we'll get back to the equilibrium point. So this equilibrium point is actually incredibly powerful, right? It actually helps to bring about itself. You know, even if we just randomly guess, and say, all right, look, let's just set the price all the way up here, right? We're going to learn very quickly that we're not selling enough, right? We're failing to sell some product. And at the same time, we're going to see people not buying very many. And so we lower the price. And we're going to lower the price until we're not wasting shelf space or time producing things that people won't buy. And we're getting customers in the door, right? And if we set the price, let's say we try to be generous, we set the price really low, right? So we set the price all the way down here even, right? Well, we're going to see customers coming in, not being able to find the product, and we're going to have a hard time finding sellers to bring us the product, right? And so if we did that, what would we do? Well, we could raise the price, right? Yes, this will make some customers angry, right? But it'll also decrease the amount that they're trying to buy, and it'll increase the amount that people are providing, which means we're actually serving more customers, right? So that's kind of the paradoxical thing, is that if the price is too low, we're actually serving fewer consumers because we're only able to bring in or sell what we have, and the producers are only producing this much here. And if I raise the price, the producers will produce more, right? And while the buyers want to buy this many at the lower price, they can only buy this many, right? Because this is how many are actually there. And so if I raise the price, yes, it's true that customers will want less, but they'll get more, which is a crazy, pretty paradoxical thing. But if you can keep that straight in your mind, you're ahead of probably 90% of economists on Earth. Okay, so I'm going to change paper, and we're going to move to shifting the curves. Okay. Now when we shift the curves, okay, so let's do shifting the curves. All right, it's important to note that we always want to shift the curve first and then read the price and quantity changes after. Okay, so I'll do different graphs for each one. So let's start off, we'll say that the number of consumers increases. What happens to price and quantity? Okay, so pause the video, draw the graph, tell me the answer. Okay, so what happens, right, is we're going to increase demand because we've increased the number of consumers. Right, so we increase demand. And remember, we were here. Right, so I'll call this P1 and Q1. We've increased demand. All right, so now we're here where the new equilibrium is. Okay, and we found that both price and quantity have increased. Right, so increase in demand. Right, an increase in demand leads to both an increase in price from P1 to P2 and an increase in quantity from Q1 to Q2. And note that what we did, right, is we started here, I increased demand, I found the new equilibrium, which is here. I came directly over to the left to find the new price. I came directly down to find the new quantity. And then, and only then, did I compare these two things. Okay, so don't get ahead of yourself and try to compare those things before you've shifted the curve. Shift the curve, find the new equilibrium, and then compare. Okay, so let's do another one. So let's say that we've got our initial equilibrium here. All right, I'm going to label everything first. That's our equilibrium. All right, we come down to Q1, we go straight over to P1. Okay, so we've got our equilibrium. Now, let's say that this is the market for hot dogs. Okay, we got the market for hot dogs, and we want to know what's going to happen to the price of hot dogs if the price of hot dog buns rises. Okay, so now hot dog buns are more expensive. What happens in the market for hot dogs. Okay, so pause the video, tell me what it is, do it yourself, and come back to me. Okay, so if the price of hot dog buns rises, what's going to happen? Right, well, first, what is that? Right, that's going to be an increase in the price of a complement. Right, so now a complementary good is more expensive, and so as a result, we're going to buy fewer hot dogs. Right, we're going to want to buy fewer hot dogs at all prices because we're going to use fewer hot dogs. Okay, we found the new equilibrium. Let's come straight down. There's Q2. And let's come straight across. There's P2. Okay, so price has fallen and quantity has decreased. So a decrease in demand leads to a decrease in price and a decrease in quantity. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, so what if I have, so we'll start off in our initial equilibrium. Okay, so here's our initial equilibrium is right here. And come over there. Okay, so our initial equilibrium, P1, Q1, cool, got it. I'll color this in to make it darker. Okay, let's say that Thomas Edison invents electricity, and as a result, factories are able to stay open late into the night. What happens to the market for whatever good that factory is producing? Okay, so pause and come back when you've told me. Okay, so in that, let's put our ones in there just to be consistent. Okay, in that, what we have, right, is a change in the supply. If a change in technology has increased, and so as a result, the supply curve is going to shift to the right. Okay, so now we find where S2 and D1 cross. Okay, and we come straight down to find the new quantity, and then we come straight across to find the new price. So this was an increase in supply. Okay, and so an increase in supply leads to a decrease in price and an increase in quantity. Okay, and note, just so that we're clear, just to really try to drive this home, note that I shifted the supply curve to the right, not down, not up, not left. Okay, it went to the right. Okay, so increases always to the right, decreases always to the left. Okay, and let's do one more together. Okay, I bet you guys know what the answer is before I even come up with my example. Okay, so let's say that let's say that the price of French cheese French cheese a year from now increases. What happens to the market for French cheese today? So first, let's put in our initial equilibrium. Okay, so what happens to the market for French cheese today? All right, so pause, tell me, come back. Okay, so if the price of French cheese a year from now increases, the market for French cheese today is going to change. We're going to shift the supply curve to the left. Okay, I'll put this here, I guess. Okay, so we have a decrease in supply. the curve is shifted to the left. We find our new equilibrium, and we come straight down our new quantity and our new price, right? So a decrease in supply leads to an increase in price and a decrease in quantity, right? And so these are all the shifts of the curves. We can have an increase in demand or supply, we can have a decrease in demand or supply, right? And we can shift the curves accordingly. Now the important thing to recognize, and I can't emphasize this enough, is to always start with your initial conditions, so S1 and D1, right? And move the correct curve in the right direction first. Find the new equilibrium from reading the graph here. So find this point or this point or this point or this point or wherever it is, okay? And then tell me what happened to price and quantity. Don't try to be clever. Okay, don't try to jump the gun. Don't try to get ahead of yourself. Always think in terms of this, okay? Always think in terms of supply shifting or demand shifting or whatever's going on, okay? Shift the curve and then tell me about price and quantity. If you jump the gun, you're risking the chance of getting it wrong, okay? And I will try to trick you plenty, so don't worry, okay? So always, but if you do it this way, if you do it like this, okay, you shift the curve and then you read it from there, you will never miss a question in this class, okay? So shift the curve, then tell me. So shift, then read. Don't try to guess what it's going to say, okay? Shift the curve and then read it. All right.